Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Tang, and today I have the privilege of speaking with Tom Clare from Netskope. Tom, could you help us by characterizing the state of cybersecurity as you see it today in the enterprise?
Yeah, we read the headlines. Cyber is a problem for all industries, and we're going to continue to see financially driven attacks, data exposure, extortion, ransomware. And this is driven, again, nation state espionage, reconnaissance, IP data theft, a lot of reasons driving that. Humans remain the weak link, right? Phishing, business email compromise, social scams, that's continuing to happen. And then we got supply chain infections. We got disruptions in service, like blue screen of death. And this is going to put a lot of pressure on resilience. You get really, how resilient is your organization against this state of cybersecurity? It's really testing us now.
In light of these threats, then, what guidance would you give to enterprise in terms of developing their posture and protecting themselves?
Yeah, you got to really look at what degree has your organization adopted SaaS, cloud, remote work due to the pandemic. And so some folks are still on-prem and run manufacturing and stuff. Other people are cloud first. So really look at your degree of adoption for that. And then does your current security infrastructure, does it enable the agility you need? Are you an M&A driven company, mergers and acquisitions? Are you getting the user experience that keeps the employees happy and what you want? So start to look at the adoption rate, look at the infrastructure, and if it's not supporting you, it's time for a transformation. Also recognize that there are capabilities like DLP, data loss prevention, protection, but recognize that these things protect your revenues. These are revenue protectors. They also provide proof to your partners that you're good to do business with, and they also meet the stringent requirements of the auditors. And so, why look at them as control points if you're just looking at it from an audit perspective, but these things are really key to keep that revenue coming in and protect it. And so, move beyond, allow and deny. Start to understand that content and context really matter of a kind of a gray area between allow and deny, and that you're going to need adaptive access based on that contextual situation. And you're going to have to provide some real time coaching to users to guide them. It's not just good enough to give training once a year, get the certifications, but you have to actually have to coach users in real time when they're in risky situations, offering them safer and better alternatives. So, this is part of that content and context, which is so important in today's modernization.
Can you speak a little bit more about that in terms of the context? What does a context-driven cybersecurity posture look like?
Well, have a good understanding of, is this Tom Clare's G drive or is the company G drive, right? We know that in the last 30 days of employment before people depart, about 74% of that data theft goes into G drive. So if someone turns in their resignation to HR, can you go look at their activity for personal G drive versus company G drive and other company managed cloud storage and say, okay, what have they been collecting? Because that's probably the first place they're going to put it. Of course, in webmail and other things like that. And so that context matters. What if all of a sudden I'm going to go into a sensitive area and delete 100 files? I happen to be in a job that maybe I delete 190 files a day, but what if I only delete one file every 2 weeks and suddenly I'm going to delete a file? And so you have to look at anomaly detection, baselines, understand that context. When to say, this looks like you're doing a risky activity. Can you provide a step up authentication? I want you to re authenticate again before you can do this. Or we're going to block that. Or I want to collect a justification. Why are you deleting 100 files? Can you provide the business a justification for that? And then we'll let you proceed or not. And so you kind of draw a little bit of alertness to the user that A, the system is watching. B, we understand the risk of the situation. We try to coach and guide them. And if it has to be, maybe systems are down and something has to be replaced, and say, look, we've had an outage and I need to go ahead and do this to help the company. So, okay, put the justification in, move forward. We just don't want to do a hard block because we want that resilience I talked about earlier.
As the enterprise becomes more and more dependent on SaaS applications, can you provide some guidance on how an enterprise should be thinking about their cyber posture as it relates to these numerous hundreds, thousands of SaaS applications that they depend on every day?
Yeah, it's a good idea to take a look at your egress traffic. And if you're into that adoption, you'll see over 60% of your traffic is related to SaaS versus websites. If you're still traditional, you haven't really gone cloud first, that may be lower. But if you've adopted Microsoft 365, Google Work Suite, things like that, you're going to see more and more activity as users work in the cloud. And then when you look at SaaS, you'll find out that more than 50% of threats that are being delivered today come from SaaS and cloud delivery. And if you really get specific and look at the bar chart, about 40% of those threats of that 50, almost half of them, are from Microsoft 365 apps like OneDrive and SharePoint. So bypassing inspection is a risk you really shouldn't take today. If you can take out those threats in line, give a great user experience, plus you've got your endpoint protection and stuff, but belt and suspenders, protect yourself. These are things you don't want to do. So bypassing is something you have to kind of raise an eyebrow to and say why. You know that shouldn't happen. You also have to recognize that threats are really coming from personal and compromised instances, right? If you look at your managed SaaS, it's pretty clean. You can run threat protection on it, you can keep it clean. But company managed cloud storage and stuff is relatively a pretty safe area. But my personal email, my personal G drive, or someone else's compromised account that's being used to deliver a threat to me, that's where 99, 98%, the mainstay of threat delivery is today. And so you have to make sure you're inspecting that traffic. It's not just good enough to say, I can manage my SaaS, my managed SaaS, take care of it. No, it's all the other stuff that's out there that's being used. A lot of it's the personal stuff. Now, recognize we're getting better. There's a lot of machine learning out there. I know AI is the kind of the buzzword right now, but machine learning has been used for the last 7, 10 years, getting a lot better with phishing detection on the fly, real time, C2 beacon detection, not just the malware beacon detection, but the in-memory stuff like Cobalt Strike and the harder stuff. We're getting better at understanding. So you can use IOCs, indicators of compromise, signatures to block threats, but we're getting a lot smarter with our machine learning to understand baselines, what's normal, what's not normal, and to pick those things out and do a better job with our threat detection. So machine learning works on both sides of the fence, but the defense side, I think you'll see there's quite a few advancements there.
You've covered quite a bit of ground talking about first the complexity of the organization, the need for dealing with people, the numerous tools that are available, and kind of the context awareness. Could you provide maybe some guidance for just for how to get started as you think about where the threats are going and what direction they're headed? How does a typical enterprise, how should a typical enterprise move from where they are today in terms of being able to prepare for future problems?
Yeah, there's again, what's your percentage of adoption to SaaS, cloud first? Recognize that percentage traffic. Use those benchmarks to guide you when you're ready. But really, when you look at the human is the weak link and some of the stuff I talked about earlier, look at your secure remote access. How secure is that? Can you improve the user experience? Can you move to something like zero trust network access? There's solutions out there that are probably more secure, an inside out perspective. They're going to authenticate first before they allow access. So that's an area that that's an early entry point for ransomware, cybercrime, nation states. They're looking to compromise that access, get the user on their personal email, their personal social accounts and stuff. Also, recognize your risk profile of your SaaS app inventory, right? So you're adopting more and more SaaS, more and more cloud. What is that? When you ask, someone in kind of the infrastructure operations, they'll say, "Well, I've got 40 or 60 apps that I manage," and then you go run the inventory and show them they have 2,300, and they're quite surprised that business units and users have really adopted SaaS on their own. Haven't told IT. IT doesn't have a login or a password. It's just being used. Maybe it's integrated into Marketo. Maybe it's integrated into the HR system. So a lot of these spider webs, these app ecosystems interact with each other. So really start to understand that. Try to recommend safer alternatives. Get away from the risky apps. Again, coach those users in real time, and make that change. So SaaS adoption happens freely. The data doesn't stay in the swim lanes. People push it all around. So if you think it's going to stay in one lane, it's not. And so profile that behavior, detect those anomalies, understand, like I said, this data theft with people leaving and coming to the organization. Some people bring source code into the company. Is it source code they've stolen? Or people are walking out the door and they want to take source code. That's pretty common. Insiders, compromise, things like that. And then also recognize that managed apps can have outages. I mean, you can take any Microsoft 365, any apps, they do have outages once or twice a year. And so your resilience play may land with personal apps until the outage is resolved. Tom Clare might need to use his personal G drive to move some files around because there's an outage of the primary apps for 4 hours or whatever. And so in that resilience play, if you just say, I'm going to block everything personal, you've taken away plan B, which may save you when there's an outage of your critical apps. So again, you got to think plan A, plan B, think about resilience here. And you can safely enable personal apps. There's no reason you can't with the controls out there today.
Interesting, interesting. You're talking about a blended approach now, not only managing and carefully understanding what the legitimate apps are doing, but even being aware of all the shadow IT that takes place, and then also even being able to leverage the personal access in the event of an outage to improve the resilience. Tom, thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us.
Okay. You guys have a great day. Bye bye.
Everyone, I've been speaking with Tom Clare from Netskope.